I think the first thing to say about scaling is that there are not many playbooks about for scaling. I'm a big believer in playbooks, and if you think about the startup world, there are very, very, very many playbooks as you start out. So how do you get your first product built? How do you get your first customer? Those kind of things. There's loads and loads of content out there to read and to learn from. But as you scale, that content starts to disappear. So that's the first thing to talk about when you talk about scaling. If you look at the internal piece, I think the challenges you have are based around how do you bring people along for the journey, how do you make sure they're still motivated, how do you avoid jealousies or spats within smaller regions of growth. If you bring external people into the business, the challenges are mostly around onboarding. So how do you make sure that people hit the ground running? There's all these heuristics that if you want to bring in a new salesperson, they'll take 9 months or something just to work out what the hell it is they're trying to sell, etc., etc. So the challenges abound. It's really a question, and scaling in general is a question of balance. It's trying to work out speed and how many people are coming on board, and if you're growing very quickly, how do you onboard people in a way that means that growth can continue, not that you suddenly have all sorts of internal bottlenecks where things aren't done fast enough, etc. So there's a whole bunch of challenges that are both internal and external. Sadly, there's no way to just index on one of them and say, look, I'm just going to make sure that the people who are already in the company are going to become superstars and grow more. Also, if you just hire externally, that's also a recipe for disaster. So it's, again, looking at that balance and trying to harmonize those two things. Again, it's really difficult because all of this is happening at breakneck speed. I know a bunch of startups that have gone into sort of Series A, Series B territory, and I was talking to one just recently, and this was someone who was a very early employee. I think they were within the first 10 employees, and they were saying that they had realized one of the main problems they had was that shift from generalist to being more specific, and the problem was that they had just hired people like themselves, and people like themselves meant they just hired superstars or people who wanted to be superheroes or wanted to just do everything and be really enthusiastic and really hardworking, when actually as you scale, that's great as a virtue, but you have to kind of tone it down. You have to kind of bring it into that specific role again. The good news is that we now finally, maybe after 20 odd years or so of playbooks, are starting to have the first scale-up playbooks. And those playbooks are basically, again, saying, so if you are a company that's looking to raise a Series A round or a Series B round, how many people will be in your company? Of that amount of people, how many work in ops? How many work in product? How many work in customer success? How many in sales, etc.? And you're starting to get some heuristics that say, if you're a company that's trying to raise X amount of money and you've got a Y amount of annual recurring revenues, then the shape and the form of your company should roughly look like this. So those are the good things that are coming through for scaling, but it's early days.